Welcome, and we'll start, of course, with our bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
Amen.
And here we are. Okay. Ki tetze lemilchama al oivecha. So the word ki is if, all right? In this case, should you go out to engage in war against your enemies. Onwards. Unitano Hashem Elokecha beyadecha, and the Lord your God gives it in your hands. In other words, you win the battle.
Oh,
Right? Yes? Veshavita shivyo, and you take its captives. There's a lot being said here. So here we go, starting off. Ki tetze lemilchama, right? So ki, or if you should go out to war, or it could even mean when you go out to war, but we're going to clarify what that is. And Rashi immediately tells us, b'milchemet harishut hakatuv medaber, that Scripture is speaking here of milchemet rishut. Milchemet rishut means, as it were, it doesn't mean milchemet mitzvah. It doesn't mean a war that is a mitzvah, okay, that you have to do.
Willful.
Say that again?
Willful war.
Willful, I think, is tough. If I understand, my understanding of the word willful, but I didn't want to say permitted. Permitted, I think, would be perhaps.
They use here optional.
There we go. Okay, that's okay. But what it really is being used as opposed to Milchemet Eretz Yisrael, as opposed to the wars that were used to conquer the land, the wars of conquest for the land of Israel. Okay? So, B'milchet HaKtuv Medaber, Sheb'milchemet Eretz Yisrael, because in the war to conquer the land of Israel, Ein Lomar, you can't say, V'shavita Shivyo, you shall take captives. Sheharei, because Harei Kvar Ne'emar, it's already stated, Lo Tichye Kol Neshama, that you are not permitted to allow any soul to live. So, this is very hard stuff, of course, right? At least certainly for me.
I thought that when they captured a town, they should ask them if they want to surrender. If they want to surrender, then they made them slaves for them, but they let them live. I don't get it.
This is just specifically the war to take the land of Israel from the 7 nations of Canaan.
Correct. So let me explain, Harlan. So from Rashi's point of view, and there's some disagreement amongst the people, the poskim, the people who interpret it. But according to Rashi, that example that you gave applies again not to wars to conquest of the land of Israel. That situation where you offer them terms of peace to begin with would be this kind of war again. So that's the way Rashi takes it. He doesn't apply it to the war of conquest. I believe, though, that there are commentators who don't hold like that, who disagree with Rashi on that particular point. So how they would have to handle this as well would be interesting. It's definitely a dynamic that we have to deal with, that raises its point with us. But
wasn't there, Rabbi? Wasn't there a tribe, a Canaanite tribe that fooled Joshua and said, "We're from a foreign country," and then he said, "Okay, well you can stay with us." I don't understand the whole saying. Why kill all the women and children when you can make peace? Like I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. No. This is hard stuff. This is hard stuff. It really is. At least the justification that the Torah provides has to do with a sensitivity of idolatry, and that the Torah always says, when it justifies that, says if you don't do this, you're going to wind up becoming idolaters. And not only that, you're going to practice the awful behavior that they behaved, which is why this is happening to them. So we, by and large, we don't come with that kind of loyalty to God on that kind of level. All right. So we struggle with it. But assuming one did have that kind of level of devotion, maybe it wouldn't be so problematic. But for me, the problem is that I believe that you see things such as the best example, of course, is the Spanish Inquisition, or even nowadays, where you see people who are zealots, okay, and commit, in my humble opinion, terrible crimes in the name of religion. And I see that more as a desecration of God than a sanctification of God, because I think the real issue has to do with that the Torah is trying to get across to us how we have to behave ourselves and how we have to rid ourselves of the temptation to commit idolatry with our lives. At any rate, but here, I mean, we still have to deal with this on a pshat level, and I don't want to get into metaphoric interpretations, because I think this is talking about, a situation. And at any rate, I think we need to just be satisfied for now that this is Rashi's take on it, and to allow him to speak to us and hear what he has to say. So, as far as that one tribe was concerned, they did trick Joshua. By the way, there's a tradition that there was another tribe that also tricked Moses. That the story of Joshua is actually, even though it isn't mentioned explicitly in the Torah, the commentary understands from, again, drushing out verses and stuff, that they also did this to Moses as well, a certain tribe. But the point is, once they gave their word, and this is the story in Joshua, the takeaway there is that even though, in a sense, because they had tricked Joshua into thinking they were from a distant country, so that the whole basis of the deal, in other words, they extracted a commitment from Joshua that he would not destroy them, all right? So the deal was made on a false basis. Joshua had given his word that he wouldn't. And so despite the fact that, let's say from a legal standpoint, since it was based on trickery, you could have said that the whole deal was null and void, nevertheless, Joshua still felt he had to keep his word and could not do that. However, that's why they became, quote, hewers of wood and drawers of water, that there was a penalty for the fact that they did it through trickery. So, to what degree do we have to keep our own word, regardless of whether or not that word was extracted in an honest kind of way? I think there's a great lesson in that. But let's get back into this, okay? So we're going on to a little bit more. Let's see here. It's interesting note that Rashi says. Okay, but let's keep going. This is also interesting. And he says, and you shall take captive, right? You shall take captives. The Rabot Kna'anim, based on the Sifrei, I believe, it says to include Canaanites, right? She'betocha, that are amongst them. In other words, they're living outside the land of Canaan. They're living outside the area that the Israelites were commanded to conquer, and yet there are Canaanites living there. So this is, a little bit of practical stuff. Okay, Afal pi shehem me shivat umot, despite the fact that they are members of these 6 Canaanite nations that had to be expunged, nevertheless, they are not destroyed.
7.
Yeah, 7. Did I say something else? Did I say 8?
You said 6.
Oh, I did? Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. No, okay. I guess in my mind I said 7. All right. So there's some cool Torah Temimah about this, but I sort of want to see if I can get through at least this section, and then we'll go back and take a look at it more, try and analyze it a little deeper. Okay, so that's so far. V'ra'ita b'shivya, back into the text, and you see amongst the captives, Eshet Yafat Toar, a beautiful woman, a woman beautiful of form. V'chashakta ba, and you desire her. V'lakachta lecha leisha, and you would like to take her as your wife, okay, as a wife. So here goes. Eshet. So the fact that it says Eshet, a woman of, right? A woman of beautiful form. But they're riffing on the fact that it says Eshet, and Rashi says, Afilu Eshet Ish, even if she is a married woman. And you know that generally, okay, that's one of the 10 commandments, right? Committing adultery means, having relations with a married woman. But it's saying in this particular circumstance, well, part of it is that even though she may be married to a man, okay, she may be married, nevertheless, in this circumstance, that doesn't count. Okay.
Maybe this is part of the dehumanization that can lead to killing everybody. You don't really consider him a man that is entitled to have his wife to himself.
Correct. That there's a sense that their marriages aren't really legitimate marriages. But the truth is, you can go the other way, Lauren, and say that the fact that it's limited to this particular case, where she's probably widowed anyway, okay, there's a good chance she's been widowed, nevertheless, that in all other circumstances, you can't do that. You have to consider her a married woman, even though she's not married to a Jewish person, right? It's not a Jewish.
I don't understand that. Why would God do that? He said that we should only marry within our tribe, within our Jewish religion, not to marry a goy. I don't.
Okay.
I don't understand why he let this happen.
Okay, so I think as we go through this, Harlan, okay, you will see the circumstance and where this is coming from. All right, and the process which she has to go through is understood as being a conversionary process. So she has converted. What she has to do is understood as a as conversion. Okay, more will be said by the Torah Temimah on that particular issue. All right.
But I don't buy what you just said, because it says a married woman. It doesn't say a widow.
I know. Well, there's a chance she is still married. I know. I said, but listen, they're engaged in battle. She's been captured. The point is that even if she is a married woman, okay, yeah, I'm not saying that she wouldn't be. I'm saying, but there's also a chance that she might not be married in that situation. But I don't think I'm really arguing your point. I'm not trying to.
Sounds like David to me.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
We're getting off of that. No,
Please, you need to let me speak, because I think there's more stuff to clarify. This is big stuff that we're dealing with. Okay. V'lakachta lecha leisha, right? And you would like to take her as a wife. This is the incredible statement here. Lo dibra Torah, ela keneged yetzer hara. The Torah is only addressing the yetzer hara, the evil inclination, lust. She'im ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu matira, because if the Holy One, blessed be He, did not permit this, allow this to happen, Yisa'ena be'isur, he'd wind up marrying her against the Torah. In other words, there's a recognition here of how powerful these particular things are. And that I thought this was an incredible statement, that if people are going to be so controlled by their lusts, etc., you have to be able to legislate in a way where, while it's not something you want to see happen, you want to do it in a way that makes it less destructive. And I thought this was a great example in the Torah of legalizing pot. Or, that the Torah here is giving us an example of, if you try to legislate something and people are just incapable, they're more likely, okay, yes, some will obviously, and maybe many, maybe the majority, but if a significant number of people are going to do it anyway, you don't legislate it that way. You try to legislate in a way where there are controls. And I thought this is so progressive and insightful in terms of legislation. Let me keep going. Aval im nasa'a, Rashi goes on to say, but if in fact he does marry her, sofo liyot snua, sofo liyot sonah, in the end he will wind up hating her, Shne'emar acharav, because after this, if you went ahead and read in English or however the Torah portion, you see that after we finish this subject, it says ki tiena leish, etc. It goes on to talk about a situation if a man has two wives and he loves the one and hates the other. Okay. V'sofo, and in the end of this process, leholid mimena ben sorer umoreh, and if he, and in the end, she will bear to him a stubborn and rebellious son. That's the next stage. So there are three sections that come one after the other. Lechach nismechu parshiot halalu, and this is the reason why these three separate parshiot are all connected. They're all put next to each other. So this isn't a positive mitzvah. The Torah doesn't want men to run out, to go to war, to see beautiful women and take them for a wife. Okay? That's not. But what the Torah is trying to do is to give us some kind of legislation so that it can place some controls over this. And you'll see how. So I'm going to keep going because I have a little more time. All right?
So the point here is there are consequences no matter what, right?
There are.
Yeah, no matter what.
There are. But the trouble is, we fight our own evil inclination. It's just, or if you want to use Freudian terminology, our id. And it's powerful. It's powerful. The elements in our dark side of lust, of any kind of lust, right? They're an appetite. And it's complicated. If we didn't lust, we'd cease to exist as a population. We'd be wiped out. And the Torah is trying to, the tradition also, the Torah is trying to handle this particular element of being a human being. So anyway.
I want to know, Rabbi, what happens to the children of this one that marries a
They're legitimate children. She's a full-fledged wife. Let's keep going. Good question, Harlan, but let's keep going. V'haveita el toch beitecha. You shall bring her into your home. V'gilcha et rosha. She should shave her head. V'asta et siporneha. Now, this word asta here is ambiguous. So some people say it means she should trim her nails. Rashi, as you will see, says she should let her nails grow long. Okay, do the Rashi here. V'asta et siporneha, right? Tegadlen. She should allow them to grow and grow and grow. Kedei shetitnavel. The whole purpose of this is to overcome that initial desire because he saw how beautiful she was and he was enraptured with her, okay? But now...
Is that to be mourning her mother and father because they're dead from the war?
Ultimately, you'll see. It's going to say that specifically. But here, it's not necessarily the case. But if we keep going, we'll see that she is told to do that. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay. V'hesira et simlat shivya me'aleha. She should remove the clothing, the dress she was wearing when she was captive from her. She should remove it. Put on other garments, obviously. V'yashva beveitecha, and she should remain in your home. Uvachta et aviha ve'et ima, and she should lament for her father and her mother. There we are, Harlan. It's right there. Yerech yamim, for a month of days. V'acharkein, and after all this, tavo eleha, you should come to her, evi'alta, and you can have your way with her, I guess. I mean, it doesn't mean it in that sense, but it means, you can consummate the relationship. That's what it really means. Let's keep going. Sentences.
Did you do the Rashi for 12?
Let's go back, and maybe I didn't. Oh, no, I did not. Thank you. We did 12. Yeah, it says she should, I explained, Rashi says that she should make her nails grow. Okay?
That's in the text. It says to me in the Rashi, it says so that she should become repulsive.
Check back, and I said that. I already translated that.
Okay.
It's not a problem. Okay. So let's keep going with this particular verse. She's mourning for her father and mother for a month.
And this one has 3 Rashis.
Yeah. Okay. And afterwards, thanks. You should come to her and consummate the relationship. But look at this. V'haita lacha la'isha, and she should be your wife. She's a fully fledged wife. So I hope we have time to go to the next Rashi. I want to do that, and the next verse, and then I'll go back to the Rashis. V'haya, and it shall be, if the case is, im lo chafatzta ba, if you no longer desire her, v'shilachta lenafsha, you should release her completely. You should completely release her. Umachor lo tikarena bakasef. This is explaining what that little verse means, okay? You shall by no means sell her for money. You shall not sell her. Lo tit amer ba. You should not make use of her as a servant. Tachat asher inita. In the fact that you have degraded her. You've caused her to look, to degrade herself.
So you give her a get? Is that a divorce?
No, you haven't married her. It says, if at that point you don't want to marry her, she is allowed to go free, 100%.
Oh, okay.
You do not have that kind of right. And I think this is progressive. When you think of when this was being legislated and how men in certain societies, the kinds of power they were given, certainly over captives, over women, etc. I think to me, this is powerful stuff. Okay. Let's go back to the Rashis. Let's go here. Little time we have. Okay. V'heisira et simlat shivya. She should remove the garment of her captivity. Why? Lefi shehem na'im. Because they were beautiful garments. They would be beautiful garments. Rashi explains, Sha'ovdei kochavim, because the idolaters, benotehem, their daughters, mitkashtot b'milchama, they would get all dressed up in a situation of warfare, bishvil lahaznot acherim imahem, so as to engage, if in fact they were captured, they would entice the others to, in other words, the soldiers from the other side, to be immoral with them, to fornicate. It was a strategy. Okay. V'yashva b'veitecha, she should remain in your home. B'bayit shemishtamesh bo. It says your house, meaning the house in which that you use. Safaria talks about it as opposed to the women's house. Okay, but I'm just saying the Rashi here is simply saying that it'll explain. Nichnas, if he goes, so it's the house he uses, right? He enters the house, venit kalba, and he stumbles over her. I don't think it really means literally to stumble, but it means he sees her, right? Familiarity breeds contempt. Yotzeh, he goes out. Venit kalba, and again, he sees her. He stumbles into her. Ro'eh bevechiata, he sees how she is crying. Ro'eh benavla, he sees her disfigurement, right? That she's shaved her hair and her nails are now either long or short. Kedei shetitkaneh alav, so that she becomes repulsive to him, that he not follow his lust. Okay, I see there's a chat. I'll check it. Give me a moment. See. Yes, that's what I'm doing, Golda. Right. Uvachta et aviha, she should cry for her father and mother, right? Kol kach lama, why to this extent? Kedei shetehei bat Yisrael, so that there is a comparison and a contrast between her and a Jewish woman. Shetehei bat Yisrael, that a daughter of Israel should be smecha, she should be joyous. Vezo atzuva, and this one is sad. Bat Yisrael mitkashetet, the Jewish woman is adorned. Vezo mitnavelet, and this one is, I guess this figure is the wrong term, but has to make herself not look very nice. So, v'haya im lo chafatzta ba, and it should be that if you no longer desire her, hakatuv mevasrecha, Scripture is predicting for you, shesofcha lisnuota, that in the end you will hate her. Lo titamer ba, in other words, right? You shall not enslave her. Lo tishtamesh ba, you shouldn't use her. You shouldn't use her as a servant. Belashon Parsi, in Persian, right? Korin la'avdut v'shimush. They refer to service, right? And both these words basically mean. So let's say enslavement and service. Im ra'ah. That's the word they use. It's a Persian word. And he says, Rashi tells us, Mi yisodo shel Rabbi Moshe Hadarshan, I lamadati kain, I learned this. He's attributing, right, this to a teacher of his, and it means the foundations of Rabbi Moshe, the preacher. So that is the Rashi's on this, and we have just a tiny bit of time. I'm going to stop the share here, and God willing, tomorrow we'll start to look back at the Torah Temimahs on this. So, any comments in the little time we have?
If and when and should you are very important words.
They are.
I mean, I, as a Jewish woman, would not be joyous during a wartime if my husband were degrading, enemy women and, trying to keep himself from fornicating with them.
Of course, I agree.
Not a happy time.
No, it's not a happy. It's not a happy time, but I have actually never been under fire. Right, I've never had to experience that, and I suspect that emotionally it has to be a very, very scary time, and it does crazy things with your emotions at that time. So people are not necessarily rational in these kinds of circumstances.
But all I'm saying is, from the woman's perspective, I don't think that she should be joyous.
I understand, Lauren. In many ways, you are sui generis. Okay, what Rashi I think is trying to bring out, okay, is the fact that we don't want Jewish men to practice this. We don't want them to be doing this kind of stuff. And in warfare, ask yourself. I mean, you're a student of history to some extent, and you see how men behave. When they take captives, and when they overrun a city. I mean, this is not ancient practice, right? And I think, at least for me, the takeaway is how the Torah is trying in whatever way it can, given how awful this situation is, to prevent Jewish men from behaving like this.
Well, I agree, but either way, it's also saying the women, the Jewish woman would be joyous, and I don't think that would necessarily be true either. No matter what the men were doing, the whole situation is not good.
Well, again, some people do. Some women wouldn't be joyous. Some women might be joyous. Again, the issue is for him to appreciate his wife and to appreciate who he should be, if he's going to let him lust after a Jewish woman, etc. Okay, whatever, however, let him fall in love. Yes, Harlan.
When he kicks out the wife, does the children go with the wife, or does it stay with the Jewish man?
Well, that's a good question, but again, I think what you need to understand is this is before she becomes his wife. This is in this month that is taking place. Okay.
Oh.
Now,
But
it's
he can have his way with her.
okay. So
That's
this
what it says.
he cannot. He did, right? You're bringing out something that I was going to discuss tomorrow.
Okay.
No, no, no.
Preview.
That's right. No, you're looking at it closely, and that's
Right.
exactly right. But yes, yes.
Yes.
There's an assumption that something has taken place,
Yeah.
and now he has no right. He doesn't own her. Okay, he doesn't own her.
Right.
That's what the Torah is telling us.
That's
Okay.
exactly right.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to stop
And
the recording.
because lust happens, apparently, according to this, lust happens.
Yeah. Surprise, surprise. Right? Who
Yeah.
would?